What is happening, everybody? Tim Meister here, and welcome back to Rockport. In this episode, I'm going to be building the University of Rockport right here near downtown. And I'm really excited to get into this project because ever since I began the the Rockport series, I've been wanting to build a university downtown. The Campuses DLC is honestly one of my favorite DLCs, so I'm always excited to build really nice campuses and whatnot. So this campus is going to be kind of similar to the one in Dunswell, the Dunswell Institute of Technology that I built probably about a year ago at this point. The only difference is instead of using the college campus, I'm actually going to use the university campus for this one because I really wanted these buildings to look historical. I wanted this to be a very old and prestigious university right smack dab in the middle of the city, and I just thought that that this one fit a little better. So it's going to be quite an extensive project, and it's a really big step forward to completing the downtown area, as you're going to see by the end of this episode. And my plan for this university is there's going to be the main campus, but I want to blend the campus into the downtown area. So within the campus, I'm going to be placing down a couple of, maybe some office buildings here and there, and just like some vanilla buildings, if you will, just to help the university blend into downtown. And you can see here the road layout too attributes to that a little bit, because the main one-way roads here that kind of go through the university, this is a main arterial road. So a lot of people that are going to be commuting from outside the city or from the city's suburbs are going to have to pass through the university to get to work or wherever they're going, right? So it's a major arterial route that's passing right through here. Very important, and I'm guessing the traffic is probably going to be quite heavy here at times. And actually, traffic is something that I'm going to have to address here pretty soon. So over the last couple of episodes, as I'm just kind of browsing around downtown and whatnot, I've noticed that traffic in the city is abysmal. It's terrible, guys. It's a huge problem. Pretty much every road in the downtown area is red. So I'm going to have to get into some form of public transportation here pretty soon. But I won't talk about that too much because we have a bunch of other things that we have to get into first. But just know that that's on the horizon for sure. And, speaking of that, I guess I'll ramble on here for a second. I've always wanted to get into trams in City Skylines. It's not a form of public transportation that I've played around with very much at all in the game. So yeah, I really want to incorporate some trams into to Rockport at some point. So spoiler alert. So again, for this university build, I will be including every building, and my goal is to hopefully have this university level up to a level 5 university so it can actually function properly. In order to do that, I'm going to have to place down, like I said, every building. I'm also going to include a varsity stadium in a little bit. And I think the biggest challenge to get to a level 5 university is going to be the number of parks that I have to place down. I think it's kind of ridiculous in this DLC just how many parks you have to place down to get to another level. I mean, there's other ways around it, but in terms of prestigiousness, building extra buildings and parks and things like that is it's usually the easiest way to go about it. So I don't know, I'm curious to see how I'm gonna get our university to level 5. I'm sure at some point I'll have to kind of revisit the university and just decide what is missing to get it to a level 5 and maybe add on to it at some point. But for this episode, I'm just gonna be plopping pretty much one of everything except dorms, because of course you need enough capacity for all of the students, and it just makes it more realistic to have multiple dorm buildings. Another thing for this campus is I want it to be as accessible as possible for the students, and that's why I'm placing down a ton of paths everywhere, because I want the students to be able to just walk from building to building super easy, without having to cross any major obstacles and things like that. So I'm making sure to provide enough paths for them to walk through. And it also makes it a little bit more realistic to do this, because most universities around the world have a nice path system throughout the campus just to provide easy access from building to building. I also want to add that this is not going to be the only campus in town. I would like to include the 3 other types of campuses. And what I'm thinking for the liberal arts campus is I want to place it somewhere on the outskirts of town, maybe in a posh neighborhood, kind of nestled into the mountains. That would look really cool, I think. And that university fits the part of being like a posh university, that all the rich kids go to. So I definitely want to include that somewhere in the city. I also want to include the technical college as well, somewhere in the city. I'm not sure about that one yet. But yeah, I am actually looking forward to the liberal arts college somewhere in the mountains surrounding the city. That is going to come in quite some time, though, as we have a lot of expansion to do before we even consider getting into that. And also, what'll be interesting about that campus is I'm probably going to have a lot more room to play around with. So I'm thinking of making that university an interesting shape. And what comes to mind is the University of South Africa, or the University of Cape Town in South Africa. I actually visited that campus last year in person, and it honestly is one of the coolest campuses that I've ever seen. It just has such a unique shape, and it's just such an awesome university, right? So yeah, I'm probably going to build a campus at some point, using that as reference. And it really does look a lot like the liberal arts college as well in the game, so I'll definitely be using that. All right, so what I'm going to do next here is a kind of a cool little feature that I've done in the past a couple of times in some of my other cities. So this medical research building, I think this is, it's 2 separate buildings, but as you can see, there's a little pedestrian bridge that connects the 2. And as you can see, the road neatly fits right under it. So I am going to add this feature, we'll call it, in Rockport. However, the only thing I'll have to do is install the Bob mod to remove the trees, because as you can see, there's some trees that are planted right in the middle of the road. We don't want that, so I will be adding the Bob mod to my collection to remove those trees. So yeah, I've done this little trick in the past. It's just a perk of this building, I guess. So I couldn't not do it in Rockport, especially with this being a main arterial road leading right into the downtown core. It'll be pretty cool just driving, well, I guess in this case, out of the city, because it's the outgoing lanes. But yeah, you'll just have to pass under that little bridge as you're driving out of the downtown. And of course, this building is part of the campus. And what I'll do next here is a little bit of terraforming, because I have yet to place all of the buildings. I have quite a few of them actually to place down. and I forgot how large these buildings really are, and how much room a university occupies. If I'm honest, this university became a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. I kind of allotted a space for it as I was expanding downtown, and you know, I was kind of trying to figure out how the university was going to fit in downtown, but I just imagined that it would be so much smaller than what it became. But that's okay. That's not really a problem at all. It just changed my the process of building the university a little bit. So I thought just to create a little bit more diversity as far as buildings go within the campus, I figured there should be some more modern dormitories over here. So I plopped down some more modern, kind of brutalist architecture buildings. You know, we can say that maybe the Rockport University was built in, like, I don't know, the early 1900s or something like that, and may have gone through some upgrades in the 1960s. So I thought these apartment buildings looked kind of the part in this sense. And here I'm kind of just experimenting with different buildings, but I didn't think they fit very well into this space here. So I moved them a little bit more out of campus. So this large building right here, which I think this is the Medical Research Center, not the previous building that I placed down a little earlier. Honestly, I'm not sure what that building is anymore, but I'm fairly certain this is the Medical Research Center. I feel like I should know what these buildings are. I've placed them so many times. But yeah, this building in particular was a struggle because, as you can see, it's quite massive, right? And with downtown being on a hill, You know, this building isn't very friendly towards any sort of rough terrain. So I was kind of limited to where I could place it, but thankfully I found a good spot over here by the railroad tracks, and it just fits perfectly. I have no complaints. It's as if it was meant to be. Alright, so this building that I just moved temporarily, this is the School of Law. And I'm not going to make it a direct part of the campus, simply because I didn't have enough room to place it. So I made its own, I just zoned its own little exclave, its own little island, maybe like a block away from the main campus. But I'm going to pretend that this is more of a government building than it is part of the campus. It certainly looks the part of an official government building. And, you know, I definitely thought it looks really, really cool near the downtown. And, you know, just like the Medical Research Center, I was quite limited to where I could place it to. Not because of room, but because of how huge the building is. And, you know, huge buildings don't really play nice when it comes to inclined terrain. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this building looks really, really cool over here. It matches with the campus, but it also looks like it could be a totally separate government building as well. So I believe at this point, I pretty much plopped down all of the official campus buildings. Now, for the next few minutes, I'm going to detail the campus a little bit and build out some of the surrounding areas. So with this being near downtown, it's a very historic part of the city. So all of the homes that are near the campus are going to be quite historical. They're going to be quite old, a little run down, you could say, just to make them affordable for students. So it's going to be a typical like college kind of neighborhood over here within the downtown area. And I really, really like these row houses. They just look perfect. As far as plopping buildings outside of the campus, such as like zone buildings, homes, that kind of thing, I'm not going to go too deeply into it. I'm basically just going to gloss over parts of around the campus just to get an idea of how I want this area to look and to set the stage for next episode, which is going to be exactly this. So placing all the homes, all like the little shops and stuff around the campus area. And I have a ton of ideas of how I want the surrounding areas to look. I just kind of thought after finishing this episode that I could place down some actually like university residential buildings. It's like a specific set of buildings in the game. So we'll be plopping down some of those, trying to fit them and to squeeze them in wherever I can. So that should be exciting. And with that, next episode is pretty much going to wrap up downtown as a whole. You know, there's not a lot of room that's left to fill in the downtown area. The whole peninsula is pretty much been built up. So we're going to have to start expanding more and more outwards from the downtown core. So that is really, really exciting. And, you know, it's actually a good thing, honestly, that the university was much bigger than I anticipated, because it kind of speeds up the expansion of the city. Because as I've reiterated a couple of times already, it's kind of crunch time at this point, trying to get as much of the city as I possibly can before Cities 2 comes out. But speaking of which, I've asked you guys in a YouTube poll at one point, would you like to see some Cities 1 content after the release of Cities 2? And a lot of you have been saying that you would love to see some more Cities 1 content. And I totally understand that, because it's going to take some time for Cities 2 to be on the same level as Cities 1 as far as like DLCs go and just the amount of content in the game. So I'm thinking that I will continue Rockport for a good while, you know, after Cities 2 comes out. And hopefully I'll be able to finish the city and just complete it in its entirety, because Rockport is pretty special at this point. You know, it's probably one of my favorite cities so far that I've ever built. And it's crazy to say that because it's a totally vanilla city as far as like what assets I'm plopping down and such. But yeah, I mean, this whole project has been super fun so far, and I'd be happy to continue it for as long as I can. So yeah, at this point, I'm pretty much just detailing away, plopping the final little details around the university. And here is the stadium that is going to be placed right near the campus. Now this is, I think it's an American football stadium, an indoor stadium. I guess we can just pretend it's something else in our minds, because I'm sure American football is not very popular in New Zealand. But yeah, I mean, not that I'm like totally basing this city on New Zealand, because, you know, it's right-hand drive and whatever, but yeah, I mean, we still gotta make the city resemble New Zealand a little bit. And yeah, basically the last little bit of this episode is going to be totally based on detailing. Just gonna add some trees and stuff, like I normally do. And I figured out I wanted to build a little bit of a plaza. Alright guys, so with the end of this video approaching, I just want you guys to let me know how you like this campus, how you think it blends in with the rest of downtown. Let me know if there's anything that I should add or anything that I should have done differently in this episode. And I can always revisit a lot of these locations too, right? If I think you guys have any good suggestions, I can always add them later on. So no project is 100% final, just like, you know, the entirety of City Skylines, right? There's no end game. It's pretty much up to you to decide what you want to do and how far you want to take the game. But honestly, this is a really fun project for me. It was a fun project. I think the university fits well into the rest of the city, and yeah, I mean, you know, when I zoom out and I look at the whole downtown, as you're going to see in the cinematics a little later on, the university just looks so cool right in the central part of the city. With that being said, I guess as I said a little earlier in this episode, the next episode will be completely featured on filling in all the blanks that we have yet to fill in the downtown area. So that's going to be really exciting, right? Because then the downtown core is going to be complete. We'll be able to move on to some other projects more on the outskirts of town. I'd like to get into an airport pretty soon, and a lot of other major pieces of infrastructure. And feel free, guys, if you have any suggestions on what I should build in future episodes, just drop a comment down below, and I'll be happy to think those through. So that is pretty much going to be the end of this episode. Like I said earlier, stay tuned to the very end of this episode, as I'm going to feature some nice cinematics of what we built, and that'll be pretty much that. So guys, thank you so much for watching. As usual, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and until the next episode, take care, everyone.